In this episode of The Growth Apprentice, we talk about what it really takes to be successful at something.
He just made me drill those 5 moves over and over and over again. And it's just persistence of training and learning these 5 moves that I hated. It was so monotonous doing the same 5 things over and over again. And after about a year of doing that, I became really, really good at these 5 moves. And I started winning everyone.
Why you should always do the right thing.
Let that be your second goal. Let that be another option. The money will be there, but love your customers, do the right thing.
And more.
Once you rise above mediocrity, you never really go back.
I'm Samuel Law, and this is The Growth Apprentice. Hey, Brother Humpherys, it's great to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. This is the first time I've done anything like this, but I feel it an honor that a person like yourself would ask me, of all the different people you have, the opportunity to invite. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to have you on today. I'm really excited for this conversation. Can you introduce yourself in, like, how would I, if I had just met you, what would you want me to know about you?
Well, I'm just fairly retired. I grew up in Orem, Utah. I came from a family. My father was a dentist. My mother was a stay-at-home mother. My father took great pride in helping his kids become the best they could be in every single way. And I love my father dearly. Growing up early on, I had a lot of learning disabilities that really struggled with. I struggled with reading and writing and different things, which over time I've been able to master and overcome. But early on, it plagued me. Certain events in my life have really shaped me and caused me to be the person I am. Like I said, I grew up in Orem, Utah. I went to high school at Orem High School one year, and then Mountain View High School was built. I was entered that as a first year as a junior, and spent my next 2 years in Mountain View High School. At that point, I went to Brigham Young University, where I graduated. Went on a mission, kind of a little backwards. I went on an LDS mission when I was 22 years old, and I'll talk a little more in detail about that if you want. After that, I graduated in education. I was planning on being a teacher, and a friend of mine became a pharmaceutical sales rep and told me all about it. And I thought it was the greatest job I've ever heard of. And so I interviewed with that and found out it was extremely difficult to get into. It was about 1 in every 300 that applied to get it. But I was of the attitude that I didn't care what it took. I was going to break in, and I did. And I did that for 33 years and retired this last January, and started my own little business. And that's where I'm at today. So that was kind of a quick rundown of where I've been and what I've done. And so where would you like me to go from here? More details early on, or what would you like?
Yeah, so you were talking about how, it's like 1 in 300 chance to, or like 1 in 300 people get hired for that position. A lot of people might look at that and it's like, oh, I'm not even gonna try. I'm probably not gonna get it. But, you push past what it looks like crazy odds. Where did that work ethic come from, or that, inner conviction that, oh, I'm just gonna do it?
Probably the work ethic of the sport I was in. I was in 2 or 3 different sports growing up that I learned. Literally, that's what taught me work ethic. I started out just dumb luck, ending up on the best football team in the Utah Valley of the Little League teams. We won every championship and every bowl game, and it was kind of dumb luck. I wasn't an athlete at all. I was kind of just got talked into going out for it by a friend, and the coach that we had to coach this team, we were so scrubby and so terrible looking that he quit the team after a week, and that all these about 15 kids didn't know what to do. So we just sat around every day. We were supposed to be at practice and just threw the ball. And a guy by the name of Blaine, I don't even remember his last name, showed up. He lived across the street, and he said, "What are you guys doing?" And I said, "Well, we're supposed to be in a football practice, but our coach quit, and we're waiting for a new coach to come be hired." And he went over and talked to the city and said, "I'll coach these guys until you find a real full time coach." But he ended up being our coach for the whole 3 years, and he took us from the worst, nobody wanted us, scrubs, to the very best team that won everything in it. And he taught us how to, love ourselves and how to believe in ourselves and how to work hard and do more and be, you know, focus on specifics. And he really was. And it was the beginning of the start of my life where I began to have confidence and believe in myself. And from there, I wanted to be a pole vaulter of all crazy sports. I watched it. That was the strangest sport. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to start. So I went home and I found a galvanized pipe that was, a fence pipe. And I decided that was going to be my pole. And I made these 2x4s with nails in it and a bar across. And I just started practicing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just was determined to be a pole vaulter. And that same ethic that I learned early on with football, this coach taught us, I applied to pole vaulting. And my dad began to realize I really loved this sport. I was doing it before school, after school, and that's all I wanted to do. And all I had was a galvanized pole and fence pole, and didn't know what I was doing whatsoever. And he uh, uh, he bought me a pole vaulting pole for Christmas, and that was the neatest thing I'd ever had. And I'd go to BYU indoor during the winter and practice in the field house and practice and practice. Um, and I became better and better at it. And one day he picked me up from school and he said, "Come on, let's go." And he actually checked me out. It was early. He's like, I've got to take you somewhere." And I said, "Where are we going?" He says, "You'll find out here soon." And checked me out. I was a little nervous because there was nothing planned, nothing told. And I show up. He takes me to the airport, and here I am. I'm in the 8th grade. I'm at the airport. He uh, he goes, "We're going to see a guy by the name of Bob Seagren." I don't know if you've ever heard of that name, but Bob Seagren was a 2-time Olympic champion in pole vaulting, and he flew me out to California. And he had me spend the day with a guy by the name of Bob Seagren. And Bob spent the whole day with me. He took me in his office, showed me his gold medals, uh, taught me some tricks about how to be good at pole vaulting. He was 11-time, I think it was 11, world champion, broke the world record multiple times. And here I was practicing with the best guy in the whole world. And it was so amazing to me that it was, once again, I just luck I had a father that taught me and gave me opportunities like that. We came home and got really good. I ended up winning the Alpine Championship. I won the BYU Invitational, breaking its record, 11'6". This was all within a 1 year period. And went on to win I think it was the AAU Utah Championship, going 12'2". And it was kind of the second beginning. I've always believed, I heard the saying by Thomas S. Monson once. He said, once you rise above mediocrity, um, you never really go back. He says, once you feel that level of rising above mediocrity, you, 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 you want it for the rest of your life. You don't settle for average from that point on. And I think it started with that little football team. As weird as it sounds, that little football team and the coach named Blaine that taught us how to be champions took us from uh, took me from football championship to a pole vault championship, and then I went out for the wrestling team and fell in love with the sport and worked day and night. I mean, I was working out in practice, and then I would go and work out with a coach by the name of Alan Albright, and he taught me a really specific way to wrestle. It was really unique, and worked my can off it, and it was lonely at times, super lonely. And but I eventually won a state championship and got a scholarship at BYU, full ride scholarship, and went on to at BYU to win a conference championship. That's ranked in the top 10 in the country, and had a fulfilling career. But then you asked what led to the point of never giving up and being persistent to get into the pharmaceutical industry. It was that experience of those three things that I had in my life that taught me to work hard, to never give up, to fight for what you want, and sometimes it's a lonely journey, you know. But when I stood on top of that podium, it was really lonely also, but that was a really super good lonely. When I won my first high school state championship. But anyway, that's kind of what led me to that persistence that I wasn't going to give up. I threw out like 77 resumes to different companies, interviewed with 17 companies, couldn't get past any of them at all. Interviewed one, I was terrible at interviewing. And I got lucky and interviewed with a company by the name of Mural Pharmaceutical that happened to have a manager by the name of Charles Gessner. And Charles was a wrestler out of University of Oklahoma, and we hit it right off. He, we started talking wrestling. We didn't talk about business. We talked about wrestling all the time, and all of a sudden, before you knew it, I had a job, and he made me an offer. But he made me an unusual offer. He uh, he said, we don't have an opening in Utah. I've actually filled that, but I have an opening in Portland, Oregon. And if you'll drive your way down there, we can't pay you. We're a small company. But if you'll drive your way down there and find your way down there, I'll let you have the job. And me and my wife were just dirt poor. We didn't have anything. I think we had $60 to our name and an $800 credit card max. We threw everything in the back of a 20-year-old truck and drove to Portland, and that's where we started. And it was really humble start. We lived in a real slummy area because that's all we could afford. It was, but that was the beginning of my pharmaceutical industry. It was, sometimes I think, it was really good to start humble, start really meager. I made $24,000 a year is all I made, and wasn't a lot of money, and we didn't have anything. I had two kids, but it was that humble beginning, which is so satisfying now that I've worked my can off to have money and have a home and have the things that we have. It's really been rewarding to watch that whole journey, be part of that journey and everything. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you were talking about earlier, and this is one I always like to hear about, how in order to have the good lonely of being the only state champion, you had to have a not so desirable lonely of training and stuff like that. What kind of stuff did you have to give up, and what did that experience look like for you to be the wrestling state champion?
my first year I went out, I was terrible. I lost my first 17 matches in a row. Horrible. I hated it. And my dad, once again, which is my rock, right? He he um, he introduced me to the guy by the name of Alan Albright, and Alan said, let's start practicing, and uh, you'll have to come after your regular practice. So I'd have 5 practices a day, then 3 times a week I would drive to Salt Lake City to work out with them later that night again, and Saturdays sometimes when I didn't have meets, and it was really unusual. he showed me 5 moves and made me drill them for an hour, all 5 moves. You know, took an hour drilling these 5 moves, and I thought, oh, that was kind of weird. How come I'm not learning more of the moves that made him great? Which he was an All-American, college All-American, Big 12 champion, went to University of Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, and went back the second time, and same 5 moves. He made me drill over and over and over. And 2 weeks later, same 5 moves over and over and over. And I think, what are we doing here? Why? I mean, I want to know all those moves, the moves, all of them. Uh, he just made me drill those 5 moves over and over and over again. And it was just persistence of training, of learning these 5 moves. And he just one time he looked at me, he said, "Look, I'm teaching you the way Oklahoma State does things." And Oklahoma's only the top 3 colleges in the country in wrestling. He goes, "I'm teaching you how to do it." And so I was dumb enough, and I just went along with it, but I hated it. It was so monotonous learning, doing the same 5 things over and over again. And after about a year of doing that, I became really, really good at these 5 moves, and I started winning everyone. And those 5 moves took me all the way to the championships. And one particular move in there that I didn't use very often was the move that I used on this guy to win. Uh, and I took him down 3 times. He'd never seen it again before because I didn't do it very often. He'd been really coached well about the things I did to him. And I just beat the pants right off him and beat him 15-3 or something like that. And just beating bad. And Alan Albright later became the BYU coach, and I was his first recruit that he brought on at BYU. I made the starting team. And let me back up a little. Those same 5 moves, I went on to the high school nationals. It was in Lincoln, Nebraska. And those same 5 moves took me all the way to the finals of high school nationals. And I lost in overtime, double overtime, by 1 point to the high school national champion. I became second in the country, and went on to wrestle at BYU. And some same 5 moves were the same 5 moves that I won my conference championship. I became all WAC, all conference wrestler. They were the same 5 moves that took me to the NCAA, where and there was this, and I think the thing that taught me was the persistence and of doing something over and over and becoming so good at it that I mastered it. I just became known for it. I was known for the a high C, a double leg, single leg fireman's carrying an arm drag, and everyone knew that I knew it, and they'd come out tried to prepare for it, but I just knew it so well. And so that same persistence and that same desire and that same drive and to work hard and off season, in season, all the time was that same persistence I used to never give up on this job. In fact, it was kind of funny because my dad, which I kind of consider my rock, he gave me all these opportunities. Was the same guy that looked at me when I was interviewing for the pharma company. He said, "I just don't think you have it." He said, "I don't think you're going to get it." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Well, I'll show you." And it just, once again, it was dumb luck in some ways. But, the old saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's just kind
Yeah.
of what happens. And I got lucky and met Charles Gessner, and he let me in the industry. And it's been an amazing industry. It was an amazing journey throughout for 32 years. So learned a lot. There's a lot of things you learn in that industry, and that's life lessons and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people these days, the value of working doesn't really seem apparent. When you were growing up, did you have a lot of friends that were not doing the same stuff that you were doing? Because, actually sitting down and, drilling 5 moves or just doing the work is not popular these days, and you don't see a lot of
No.
people actually doing what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, it seems like it's less and less now, but back then it wasn't popular either. When I was going to practices, they were going out water skiing. And I remember one particular time They were going water skiing. I had to practice, and it was an optional practice. I didn't even have to go. And they had a bunch of girls. One of them I really liked a lot was going with them, and I wanted to go so bad. And I remember just giving it up and going to practice, thinking, I want to win that state championship. I want to win that state championship. And that's the loneliness sometimes. You're giving up things. You're in a workout room and you're sweaty. You feel like crap. You're hurt everywhere. You just in pain everywhere. You're injured all the time. There's never a time when you don't have injuries everywhere, and you're having to fight through them and go on. And and then you look back on it and you realize what you mastered, and you realize that concept that President Monson talked about. Once you rise above mediocrity, you never settle for it ever again. And that's the way it is. You don't settle ever again. And I guess one of the messages is whatever you do your best and become the very best you can at it, and raise yourself above what normal is. And you'll find yourself falling in love with that work. Fall in love with work. Fall in love with hard. Fall in love with doing what other people aren't willing to do. And it almost was an adrenaline rush after a while. I mean, I see a little bit of that in you. Tell me one other kid in our quorum or little group that we have that is in the gym in the morning, right? You were there. I've admired your diet habit, that you're very strict at. These are things that make you above and beyond what others are willing to do, and they pay off in the long run. I've always admired that. I remember we went snowshoeing, right? We were all joking. We were having hot dogs, and I looked at you and I went, "Oh, this is a vegetarian hot dog." And you looked at me and was this real serious look. No, it's not. And I've always admired that. I admired your stalwart, and I think it will pay off someday in some big things. What you're doing these days. So anyway, um,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. What do you
yeah.
think it takes for someone to move, from mediocrity to start building that character and start building those habits?
Honestly, a little bit of luck in sometimes, because a lot of times you just don't know it, and you have to have someone around you that helps you through it. I was lucky enough to have early on a football coach that taught us how to believe in ourselves and be great at something. A wrestling coach that taught me principles that taught me how to become good at a few things instead of trying to be good at great at everything. Become super good at a few things. A father that would take me all the way to L.A. and put me in front of. I don't know how he did it to this day. I still don't know how he figured that out. Put me in front of a guy by the name of Bob Seger, a two-time gold medalist and multi, you know, uh, record holder. And these people kind of rubbing shoulders with them, uh, kind of helped me figure it out. A kid that was, probably didn't start out the best way, learning disabilities and a lot of challenges, and sometimes you get lucky, you get a little godlinks, right? And but how does someone do that? Listening to things like this, people that have gone before them, to motivational people that have made it and how they did it. And I remember listening to a lecture by the guy by the name of Lee Iacocca, and he talked about how he turned Chrysler around. And I still remember the thing that taught me a lesson that I've always cherished was he made one comment. I remember one comment about it. He talked about how he uh, he'd been hired to run Chrysler. Chrysler was going into bankruptcy, and most people just thought it was going to fall apart. And they hired him to kind of run that and run it, um, you know, help it kind of fall apart and break up into bankruptcy. And he met with When he came in, a bunch of the executives would meet every week, every day for an hour or two, and they would go over what they had to do and specifics. And he said, he looked at it and goes, why are we here? We're talking about the same thing over and over again. So let's quit meeting. Let's start doing. He adjourned the meeting immediately. Uh, he told everyone, we're not having any more meetings. I want you to do whatever we're doing here. I want you to do what you're supposed to do. And he says, get off your can and start going. You know, and he described how a lot of executives were really angry at him because they were used to that meeting. They liked that meeting. They'd have dinner and talk about it. And he ended the meeting and said, I want you out working. I don't want you in this room anymore. And I thought to myself, exactly, we can talk about it forever, or we can just go do it, right? And that's kind of something that's always motivated me. That
Yeah, yeah. And then, looking in hindsight, you were talking about, being in the gym and, you hurt, you've got injuries, and your friends are out water skiing. Did you, looking back, see a benefit to that of giving up those things that
absolutely,
seemed desirable at the time? Yeah?
yeah, absolutely. When I stood on top of that podium, I was the only one there. I mean, I looked at it and realized I'd done something that only one person a year ever gets, and it wasn't that. I began to look at what I'd done. I became so good at those 5 moves that Alan taught me that I had gone through a whole season without having an offensive point scored on me. Um, and I'm not sure to this day I kind of, there might have been someone else that slipped through, but I always pay attention to that to see if there's anyone that's ever gone through without having an offensive point scored. And I haven't seen it yet. I actually went through a season without being scored on. Offensive points. There were some escapes and penalty points because I'd go a little aggressive and get penalty points because of it. But um, I was never taken down, reversed, or near fall, and I don't know anyone that's ever done that before. And it was that principle of that repetitive training and of doing it over and over and over and over and over, never ever ever stopping, always doing it every day, always before school, after school, that you learn it so good that just no one could keep up with you. And it was, once again, it was in some ways it was just dumb luck or a God wink, one of the two, that um, you know you were given an opportunity of someone to teach you that. And people sometimes that don't have those things, they have to kind of generate it themselves. They have to find the motivation within themselves because you don't know that, once you rise above, once you feel that, you don't know what it's to feel that. And so you don't know what you're looking for in some ways until you actually felt it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I want more of that. I want that every time. When I became a pharmaceutical rep, I won 9 national awards. And every year was a new year. I wanted to win it. I wanted to win that. When I was coaching my kids, I wanted them to feel it. And you want to do it. You go on your mission. You want to be successful for the Lord's sake, or whatever you decide to do. That motivation just drives you constantly. That you want that feeling again. You want that that drive, and it's pretty amazing. Um, anyway, I'm kind of rambling on, but
Yeah. Yeah. When did you become clear on what you want? Because I've heard that a lot from other guests that you gotta take time and think about what is you really want and why you want it. So when did that clarity come for you?
well, I mean, it's kind of funny. I was a pole vaulter in ninth grade. I was going on to uh, my sophomore year, and my dad convinced me to go out for wrestling, and so I said yes. And all I wanted to do was pole vault. That's all I thought about when I was wrestling. Till right at the end when I won my first. Well, I won my first match, and then after that, I won my first tournament. At that point, I fell in love with the sport, and then when that ended and track season started, all I thought about was wrestling when I was on the track field. Um, Ended up quitting track shortly after that and just started training for wrestling. I wanted to be a state champion. That's all I wanted. Uh, and 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 so it's kind of the as far as like a career. I planned on being a teacher my whole life, and it's kind of once again, it's funny how life kind of takes you in different directions you don't expect. Sometimes all of a sudden you're going one direction, and the next thing you know, you're headed another, and it wasn't your plan. Kind of had this happen right now with this little business we started, and um, we started a business that now is doing fairly well. It's able to pay three salaries now, me and my son and my other son. We don't pay ourselves a lot, but we sell enough equipment now that we make good enough money. And the way it started was pretty dumb. We all wanted to find a way to earn some money to go to Alaska on a fishing trip. And a buddy of mine told me he flipped skis and said, you know, it's it's pretty profitable. Me and my boys went out and looked for skis at garage sales and thrift stores and other places, and we found a whole bunch, and they were junk, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we were falling on our face, and we were making mistakes, but we just never gave up. We just kept being persistent. We started learning the business and got lucky again. I met a guy by the name of Russ, and once again, Russ, I just happened to meet him at the right time and talked to him and was and and I started picking his brain, and he ran a shop up there, up in Park City, and invited me to come, and he had some demos that he was trying to sell off, and we went up there, and he taught us a little bit about skis and ski equipment, and we bought 150 skis from him, and the next thing you know, we're a business. And we went from there. This year we have 800 pairs of skis, and we sold about a third of them before the season has even started. Um, and we're doing really well. Our online sales have just exploded. We're selling about 8 to 10, well, about 5 to 10 on a daily basis online, and then we're selling equivalent to that every day. People coming in buying, and it's really kind of taken off. But it started very humbly again. We're started in our garage. And we plan on getting a warehouse and building it. We have a lot of lessons and mistakes, but a lot of things I've learned early on, and like in the pharma industry and so forth, that have been able to help me make smart decisions now and so forth. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool to hear about that. And then, something else that I would wanna touch on, do you have anything from the mission you serve mission, any lessons you learned there?
yeah. Once again, I feel like the luckiest person on earth because of the people that I've been so lucky to be around. I had a mission president by the name of Jim Ritchie. And, the, the amazing thing about Jim Ritchie is not only would he teach us, I had a chance to be with him a lot in the mission. He trusted me to be in leadership with him. And one thing, Jim, or President Ritchie, I should call him, because that's who he is to me. Um, he would not just teach you spiritually, grow you, and help you be a better missionary, but he was determined to teach life lessons that would carry you for the rest of your life. And whenever you were with him, he was always kind of. And one of the things that has never left me is the principle when I was going home, we had one big interview with him, and he just looked at me and goes, "Don't let money drive you." I mean, here's a multi-millionaire, self-made, worth, 20, $30 million. And he just looked at me and goes, "Don't let money drive you." He says, he says, "Do the right things for the people, do the right things for the business, do the right thing, do the safe thing, do the thing that makes is the right thing. And I promise you the money will be there in the end." Just focus on your customer, doing the right thing for them. Give them more than what they pay for. Give them, um, treat them better than you would want, same way you'd want to be treated. Um, give them the best experience, get to know them, and just um, and forget about the money in some ways. I mean, we have to think about that. We have to make sure that we price right, we do things right, and we have budgets to meet. But when you're in front of that customer, right, don't be thinking in your, boy, I'd really like to upsize him to this pair or this thing. Uh, Even though it's not the right thing, that this, even though it's less expensive, um, and do the right thing for that customer. I'll give you an example. And anyway, before I give you that example, he taught me that, and I always kind of hung on to that and kept it when I was in the pharmaceutical industry. Um, uh, Oftentimes, I'd be in front of doctors and talking to them, and um, they'd they'd ask you a question, and you knew the answer was one that meant that they wouldn't use your drug. They wouldn't use the medication that you were selling, and you'd have to give them an answer. His words would echo in my ear, in my mind, and sometimes you just have to tell them, this probably isn't the appropriate place to use my drug in this area, and you knew that you weren't going to get business because of that. But I found what would happen because of that is when you were honest with them and you told them the truth, and you didn't hold back, and you say to them they were on one medication and you were trying to get them to switch over to this, and they'd say, well, that my patient's doing well and this, and you look at them and say, yeah, you probably ought to stay on that medication. Maybe for a new patient, this is where our drug would do better. And when you do things like that, your customers begin to trust you more. It's kind of a long game. You might lose business early on. You might lose something early on, but then they trust you because you're an honest broker to them. You're not just telling them the answer that is more beneficial to you, but is more beneficial to them and the patient. And so the important thing is that you're and his words always echo: do the right things for the patient, do the right thing. Would just echo in my head: do the right things for the doctor, do the right things for the customer, do the right thing, just do the right thing, forget about the money. And it's always served me well. Like I said, I won. It drive my manager crazy. I'd sit in front of the doctor, and he was sitting there, and the doctor would ask me a question, and I would basically tell him that our drug was probably not the choice. He'd probably better use the other one. And my manager's with his eyes this big going, "What are you doing?" And I, um, but then again, I'd always say, well, how many awards did all the other people win? And he'd kind of laugh, and I'd say, and it was this principle of doing the right thing, and not getting so caught up in that that desire to have money. Let that be your second goal. Let that be another option. The money will be there, but love your customers, do the right thing. And I was going to tell you about this young lady that came a year ago, and she was buying some skis from me, and her sister kept saying, "You need the brand head." We didn't have a head. We had one head at that time, and it was a racing ski. It was a heavy ski. The bindings are really super tight, and she was just thin and small and undeveloped. And I didn't feel comfortable selling the ski to her. But her sister was just persistent. This is the brand you have to have. This is the brand you have to have, and just was just persistently just going at me and at me. And so I went ahead and sold the skis to her, and it bugged me. And I remember going in the house, and I was just like, "You didn't do the right thing, Chris. You didn't do the right thing." And I remember texting her and sending her a text and saying, "You know what? I don't think I sold you the right skis." And I gave her the reasons why. And I said, I have other brands. If you'd like them, I'd love to sell you, but I don't think I have the right ski for you. And I'd like to buy that ski back from you. And I sent that to her, and she came the next day and gave it to me and thanked me for being honest. And I lost the sale. She never bought from me, which is fine. But it's funny, just a few days ago, I was out there sitting on skis, and I noticed all of a sudden she showed up, and she ended up buying a whole package from me. And I said, "I know you." And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, I, I, I decided to come back and see if you had some equipment to occupy some." And it made me realize at that point that end goal, right? That goal of doing what's right for the business, doing what's right for the person, always doing the right thing, the honest thing, and paid off. That this person, although I didn't sell to her a year ago, she trusted me enough to come back and buy gear from me the next year, and she did. And it's tough sometimes. I mean, I had last Saturday, I had a person, I was fitting some skis, boots onto the binding, and I realized it didn't look right to me, but it was with an untrained mind, they never would have saw it. And they just kept saying, "We want these skis." And I kept saying that they're not right. And I said, I'm not going to sell them to you because I didn't feel like they were right. I felt like it was putting them at danger. And they said, "Well, let us go out and try them. If they don't feel right, we'll bring them back." And I'm like, and I just, no, they're not right. We ended up finding another pair for them, but I mean, that's kind of the thing that you constantly have to fight with because you want that sell, right? You really want it. You want to have it. You want that. You want goals and things, budgets you have to make, and payroll you have to make, and bills you have to pay. But you have to always keep in mind, do the right thing, be right. Don't put your morals, your values, and the things you know that are right and wrong, in front for that mighty dollar. You always, and that's the thing I learned from my mission president. That I think is the cherished thing that has always been with me and helped me. And I make mistakes, of course, like everyone else, but I was really grateful for that one thing that he taught me. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because that's very applicable to me because, I want to work hard and earn money, but if I'm not doing it in a way that is honorable and it's not best for the customer, then that's not gonna be I'm not gonna be able to look back and think I earned this money and I did it well, but I'm gonna
right.
regret it. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so do you have any last message you wanna share with the audience? Any last piece of advice that you think would be helpful to them?
Um, that's probably the biggest thing of all is just always, uh, ask yourself, would I want someone to do this for me the way I'm doing it for them? That's just the way I want to be treated. It's the way I want to be looked at and honorable. We make mistakes in life, and we all do. And thank goodness that we have a Savior that has atoned for us. But the goal is just to work our can off to try to find a way to be the best we can. Our our Savior will carry us over the line. And I'm 62 now. My dad died at 75. His brothers died in their 60s, and one died in their 58s. And I think to myself, I don't know where my genetics lie. I may or may not be here 10 years from now. It may be live a long life like my mother did. But I want to die exhausted. I want to die. I want to sleep when I die. I want to work and enjoy life the most I can, take advantage. Um, I want to, rather than sit around and talk about it, I want to go do. Um, and I want to experience. And I want to do it in a way my Savior would have me do it. And I think one of the greatest joys I've had a lot of joys in my life, but I think the group of boys I have right now that I have the opportunity every other Sunday to work with is just one of the most amazing experiences. I've had a few in my life. But that's one of the greatest. It's so unique, and I appreciate that. So anyway, that's kind of a parting thought. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you for coming on today. It's been great to have you. I learned a lot, and yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time and putting so much thought into this.
yeah, thanks, Sam. Gosh, well, truly humbled that you'd asked me. I haven't done this, and not quite sure what I was going to say or how it was going to turn out, but I really appreciate you. And I've always admired you as an individual. I admire your commitment to doing the things that you know are right, lifting and training your diet. By the way, I want you to know I'm a vegetarian now. I I uh, I've had some health issues that have been going on, and I realized there was a doctor I used to work with really close by the name of Jack Woolen, and Jack, I once asked him, he said, whenever doctors they talk to their patients that have something that's bothering them, it's always the first remedy is diet and exercise, and the second is medication, and they go from there. And I said, how many really actually do change their lifestyle, the diet and exercise? And he said 1 in 20. He said 1 out of 20 will actually change their life and be better. He says the others we have to give medication and we have to alter it chemically. He says, but 1 in 20 will actually change their life. And I just had a whole bunch of elements that have been really challenging, some pretty serious. And I remember him saying that to me about 4 months ago. And I remember, I mean, this is honest truth. I'd admired you and a few other people I know that have lived a life of commitment in diet and exercise and different things. And I made the choice about 4 months ago that I was going to change my life. I was going to be one of those 1 in 20. And I eat a little chicken, but mostly it's a very strict vegetarian diet. I went to my doctor about a week ago, and he ran the numbers that we were looking at. A handful of things that were really, one thing that was pretty serious, and it all turned normal. That's just changing my lifestyle had been a complete change turnaround for my health, and it was pretty amazing. And it made me realize that the word of wisdom and other things are real. And anyway, so to share that with you. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, well, congratulations on that. You're one of the 300 that got hired for pharmaceuticals, now one of the 1 in 20 that actually changed their lifestyle. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, they're they live better. Well, it's 4 months, but I'm determined. I'm not giving up on this. This is a lifestyle change for the rest of my life. I shock my family because I'm a hunter, right? I do a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, and I give all my meat away to someone else. I don't even eat it. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I respect that. That's cool. Well, thank you for coming on. This has been great.
yeah. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
Yeah. See ya.